Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
Today, we're diving into the mysterious, sometimes wildly inaccurate, occasionally creepily correct world of personality tests. I've crunched the numbers, analyzed the patterns, and apparently, I'm 6.88% more psychopathic than the average human. Don't worry, though. I'm mostly harmless, I think.
And while some of us are over here analyzing the numbers, others are overanalyzing our feelings. I'm curious about why I always feel the need to help, lead, and occasionally rescue everyone around me. And apparently, a tiny bit of psychopathy just keeps things interesting.
Meanwhile, I'm the peacemaker in the mix. Go figure. The calm in the storm, unless someone touches my stuff. Being the least psychopathic of the group means I get to be the voice of reason, or maybe the wild card, depending on how you look at it. So today, we're comparing notes, trading barbs, and wondering, do these tests actually tell us who we are, or just give us funny letters, numbers, and percentages to argue over? Let's find out.
Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom. I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
I'm Mom.
I am so excited, you guys.
Yeah, I think this one will be interesting because, you take these personality tests a few times through your life, and sometimes they kind of feel like a horoscope, and then sometimes you're like, oh man, that's pretty close.
Yeah, I think a horoscope is a great analogy. Yeah. Okay, that could be anybody.
Yeah. I think mine changes quite often.
Do you really?
Yeah. I mean, if you take the same thing, of course, we took one Enneagram and all three of us came out as perfectionist.
Yeah, we all got the same answer, the same result.
Yeah, something's wrong with this one. I was the first one, I think, to throw up a flag and say, this is not me. And then Callie said, oh, I got the same thing. And then Cole comes in and goes, I got perfectionist too. We're like, oh. Something's wrong with this test.
That didn't make any sense. Do you guys remember there was a BuzzFeed test a long time ago, several years ago now, and it was like, which Sex and the City character are you? And it was, I was working at an ad agency at the time, and one of our web developers, everybody kept getting Miranda, and they were pissed off about it. And so he went into the source code, and it was literally rigged on the back end of it to force everybody, no matter what your answers were, everybody got Miranda. And we were all A, relieved, and B, really pissed off.
Oh, why would they rig it?
They're jerks. Who knows?
That's weird.
Rage bait.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're going to start with the Enneagram then. So give us an overview of what that is.
Yeah, like I didn't really read super far into this one. What's up with the Enneagram?
So the Enneagram is a personality system that divides people into 9 different types, each with their own motivations, fears, and ways of seeing the world. Think of it less like a list of behaviors and more like a map of why you do what you do. This is about, again, the why behind your actions. So each of those individual 9 types also has a wing, which is one of the types kind of directly around you, that adds a little extra flavor and nuance, kind of the spice that changes the whole personality type. So you might be a 2 with a 3 wing, and somebody else might be a 2 with a 1 wing. And so that would kind of be where those differences were. So those 9 different types are called, type 1 is the reformer / the perfectionist. They're principled, purposeful, self-controlled, and perfectionists. That's why we were all confused when we were like, no, we are not all this. Type 2 is the helper or the giver. Caring, people-pleasing, generous, often puts others' needs first. Number 3 is the achiever or the performer. Ambitious, goal-oriented, image-conscious, and success-driven. Number 4 is the individualist or the romantic. They're sensitive, introspective, expressive, and they seek uniqueness. 5 is the investigator / thinker. They're curious, analytical, private, seeking knowledge and understanding. Cole. Number 6 is the loyalist / skeptic. Responsible, security seeking, loyal, and often anxious. Number 7 is the enthusiast and adventurer. They are fun-loving, spontaneous, upbeat, and like to avoid pain and boredom at all costs. Number 8 is the challenger/protector. They're assertive, confident, strong-willed, protective of themselves and the people around them. And then finally is number 9, the peacemaker/mediator. They're easygoing, receptive. They choose to avoid conflict and certainly seek out harmony. And then so each of those come with their individual wings. That's the number that's immediately following your score. So you might be a 5 with a 4 wing. And the wing, again, adds that flavor and the nuance to your core type. It's kind of the salt of the dish, if you will. It influences your behavior, your emotional expression, and your whole outlook. So we took a test that didn't all give us the same answer.
Yeah.
And I think that they make a lot more sense. Do you guys want to tell us what you were?
Yeah. So as you so stealthily alluded to, subtly alluded to, I got a 5 wing 4. So I am an investigator or thinker with an individualist or romantic wing, which kind of makes sense. I was a little surprised that I didn't get a 5 wing 6, as skeptical as I can be, but at the same time, the sensitive, introspective, and seeking uniqueness part definitely kind of aligns with who I would see myself as.
Yeah. Yeah. Mom, what about you?
Okay, so I got the 9, which is the peacemaker mediator, with a wing of 8, which is the challenger protector. I really kind of leaned towards the 4, so I was a little surprised about that one. But it's not totally wrong.
Okay. We'll dive into more about kind of the specifics of each one here in just a second.
I don't know. I think a 9 wing 8 is pretty spot on for you, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gig, what'd you get?
I am a 2, the helper/giver, with a wing 3 of the achiever/performer. So I tend to be more caring and a relational focus and ambitious, image-conscious qualities with my 3 wings. So I would love to know, where do you guys feel that yours specifically hit home for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a description there as curious, analytical, private, and seeking knowledge and understanding is really just a bullseye for me, because I would say that that's where I spend a lot of my time.
Not horoscopy. I couldn't say the same thing about myself and it ring as true as it does for you.
I think I struggle with the easygoing part of mine.
Okay.
That I because I don't feel like I'm that easygoing. So
most of the time, I would say that everybody has
down
their days.
For anything.
Yeah, that part's pretty easy. I mean, I can go with the crowd pretty easily, but
you also have that wing 8, that assertiveness, that confidence and strong will.
Strong will was really right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think they're far off. And I think it's interesting that, and I have some friends who, I mean, this is almost biblical to them. Yeah. They believe in this. They know what their children are. They focus on that. And I guess I struggle with that a little bit, because I especially feel like if you identify your children and you constantly communicate to them that this is you, that it kind of pushes them into a role that typecast them. And maybe they just haven't grown into their personality completely yet, but you're identifying them so closely. I mean, that would be like me saying, oh, you're the smart one, you're always the smart one, or you're always the pretty one. Then you begin to believe that because that's what you're being told all the time. So I'm not really sure that I'm real gung-ho on using this, especially for younger kids.
Well, and I think that part of it that we need to remember is that they're all fluid. We're constantly changing and evolving, especially from a child to a teenager to a young adult to a wise adult. I think that we've got to give ourselves a little bit of room to grow and change and expand and contract our personalities based on your lived experience and perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a way that you could go about it. Like, hey, right now, these are the personality traits that you seem to be displaying. These are the tendencies that you have, and the way, the directions that you tend to lean, the behaviors that you display. So if these are the display, like right now, this is how you can, by recognizing that, you can utilize that as a tool to focus on your strengths to make you more successful, even as a little kid. I mean, I'm not saying that, hey, you have to be successful in everything that you do, but kind of bringing that knowledge, that level of introspectiveness of analyzing yourself and being aware of your behaviors, I think could actually be a really powerful tool for parents.
For sure. For sure. So a couple of the things that certainly, it's kind of like I felt kind of smacked in the face by a couple of these things as I was reading through the description of my Enneagram 2. Selflessness is their duty. Giving to others is the reason for their being. They're involved, socially aware, usually extroverted. 2 are the type of people who remember people's birthdays and go the extra mile to help out a coworker or a spouse or a friend in need. But then this is the part where it really kind of got me. They also expect to be appreciated for their efforts. And I was like, that is totally true. I've never thought about it like that. But then it said it just kind of in black and white. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Don't you hate that black and white stuff?
Man, I do sometimes. But I thought that was really interesting. They can become intrusive and demanding if their often unacknowledged emotional needs go up unmet. They can be bossy and manipulative, feeling entirely justified in being so because they've earned the right to do so and their intentions are good. The darkest side of the type 2 fixation appears when the 2 begins to feel that they will never receive the love that they deserve for all of their efforts.
Yeah, there was some darkness in some of these descriptions that I thought was interesting, but I mean also like important to be aware of, to kind of check yourself against those feelings sometimes. Because like talking specifically about the type 5, it says people of this personality type essentially fear that they don't have enough inner strength to face life. And I was like, I mean, I don't really know about that part. I mean, sometimes, sure, but constantly, I don't really feel that way. But then it says, so they tend to withdraw, to retreat into the safety and security of the mind where they can mentally prepare for their emergence into the world. And then I was like, okay, in full context, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So I was trying to think. I think, Mom, you and I both did our Enneagram tests. I mean, like really, really briefly here several years ago when it was a big train to jump on. And if I remember correctly, I don't even know that I officially took the test. I think I just read like the 3-sentence overview and I was like, oh, I'm definitely a 9. I'm definitely a 9. And in this description, it says female 9s are especially prone to being mistyped as 2s. And so I thought that was really interesting. But 9s are more self-effacing and humble. 2s are proud and have a strong sense of their own worth. And so I'm still a little bit of a toss-up there going, I wonder which I really am.
There's one line in here that says 5s are often a bit eccentric. And I was like, guilty.
Can't hide that one.
Yeah.
But I just thought that they were so interesting. Okay. Did you feel that any pieces of your Enneagram description that were just totally wrong and not at all like you?
Mine starts out talking about essentially feel a need for peace and harmony. Mm-hmm. Do y'all see that? I think I'm kind of a pot stirrer sometimes, so that feels really odd.
Well, I think especially in the context of this podcast, you have certainly been the peacemaker on more than one occasion. Okay, guys, calm down. Okay, circle it back
That's
up
because
here.
You're my children.
Yeah, and I think that definitely carries some weight in this context. But I also think that we should talk about Dad also got a 9.
Yeah.
Oh.
So Dad just got a flat 9. You got a 9 wing 8. So with that wing 8, you have some of that headstrong and strong will that's going to make you a bit of a pot stirrer. But if we think about it, if you've got 2 people that are peacemakers, that probably gets a little boring every once in a while. So you with that wing 8,
keep things spicy.
Right, exactly. So you are the one who comes in and stirs the pot and adds a little bit of cayenne every once in a while. Because, I mean, Dad is pretty mellow pretty much all the time.
Yeah. His need for peace and harmony is definitely there.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't realize that Dad had a 9 too.
Yeah, I made him go through and take all of these. He is by far the least psychopathic of all of us. He's actually less psychopathic than the average person.
In general, of the three of us, who is probably the most likely to disappear into their own brain, into their own head?
Me, for sure.
Yeah.
No question.
And who would you say of the three of us is most likely the people pleaser?
You.
I kind of hate that. Like, I don't think you're wrong, but I kind of hate that.
Why?
Is that weird? Because I don't want to be so reliant on the opinions of other people, you know?
Well, I mean, and this gives you awareness to that.
Yeah.
So you kind of have like an internal emotional drive for that. But now that you're aware of it, you have the ability to keep that in check. Because here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with being a people pleaser. Like, it's not a bad thing to make the people around you happy.
Yeah.
When it turns into a bad thing is when it comes at your own expense.
Yeah. And that was one of the other things that I thought was really fascinating in here, in the description. A 2 self-image revolves around making sure that other people's needs are met, making sure that they feel important, being selfless. But a threat to that self-image is scarcely. 2s are thoroughly convinced of their selflessness, true, and is true that they are frequently genuinely helpful and concerned about others. It is equally true, however, that they require appreciation. They need to be needed. And so I have no problem pleasing you, but I need you to recognize it. It's important to me that you know that I'm helping you and that I've done you this favor or whatever it is. And I think that that's kind of the part that I wish that I was more in the 9. I was a little more self-effacing, a little more humble, and where I kind of feel like I fall short.
But I think that beginning part of that, talking about helping people, that's your hospitality.
Yeah.
And that's where you really shine, is in your hospitality to other people.
And you know, I think there's a way to interpret that. The way that it's worded there is, you are those things, but you don't do those things because you need the recognition. That doesn't mean that you don't need the recognition.
Yes. Yes. And that's the part that as I was going through all of this, I really had to kind of come to terms with and say, okay, this is what that truly means. This is how that manifests itself in you. And like you said, it's helpful for me to be aware of so that I can help myself modulate that and just be kind of on the lookout so that I'm not turning into this needy witch of saying, you better be thankful for everything I did for you.
Okay, here's this part of mine that makes me laugh. This can cause a subterranean anger to build inside the 9 psyche, which can erupt into consciousness and occasional fits of temper, which quickly blow over. Okay, that's true.
Yeah.
But which more often manifests itself in a passive-aggressive foot dragging.
Okay, I'm going to totally call you on the carpet here. How many times have we sat here and had conversations? Your dad did this and da-da-da-da-da, and you're going to tell me that I need to talk to him about it, and I don't want to.
Dang it.
Sorry, Mom.
She's got a point.
Okay, being overlooked is often a source of deep sadness in 9s.
Yeah. Would you say that's true? Yeah. I think it's
for
so
me, not for your dad.
Yeah. But again, I think that, I mean, did you look at your wing stuff, your 8 wing? Because I think that that's where, especially with Dad not having that wing, I think that would draw a lot of specific to you points that he might not have.
Yeah. I mean, this strong-willed, decisive, tough-minded, that goes, and sometimes the domineering.
Yeah. I get it.
Okay, so I didn't really pick up a whole lot of this on the quiz that we took, but like, isn't there supposed to be like different relationships between the different Enneagram numbers?
Ooh, I don't know.
Yeah, because like if you go and you look up a chart of all of the Enneagram, like they all have like arrows tying them to each other. And I don't really know what that means. Like, is that avoid these people or avoid people that you're not arrowed to? Like, is that kind of like the horoscope thing? Like, oh, avoid Cancers. Don't hang out with Scorpios if you're whatever.
So I just went and looked. I think you're right. I think that that's your kind of compatibility. So I'm a 2 and I will find most compatibility with 9s and 8s. Also find good connections with 3s, especially when they appreciate attention and affirmation from the 2. And then Cole's a 5. So what does my 5 relationship look like? That's the only one that I don't see.
So, I mean, based on the one that I'm looking at right here, the 5 points to the 7, the enthusiast, which kind of makes sense. So me, like, I gather all of this knowledge. Now I can unload that knowledge to someone who's enthusiastic about it.
Uh-huh.
And then apparently 8s are tied to me, the challenger. I mean, I might need a better explanation of that.
Enneagram 2s and 5s are double opposites, as it were. A people person versus a loner, a feeling type with a thinking type. 2s and 5s come from different points of view on what is important in life and in a relationship. And yet, because they're so different, they can also have an immense attraction and compatibility to the mystery of the other one. 2s and 5s are actually a more common pairing than might be expected, because 2s can see 5s as challenges, distant, mentally preoccupied, not giving many outward signals, and difficult to charm easily because they're so private. It's hard to know what pleases a 5, which makes the 2s only try that much harder.
Interesting.
For their part, 5s are usually very loyal. They find relationships complex and difficult, so they tend to value ones that bring in work. They tend to put energy into it. 5s bring stability and quiet, dispassionate, good judgment, and objectivity, particularly in crisis. When 5s focus, they're good listeners and give undivided attention. They're not as attached to the outcome, so they can make decisions more wisely and be good advisors to 2s, especially to the more emotionally volatile 2s. 5s are often more calm than 2s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 5s secretly like being doted over and finally finding the nurturing they have unconsciously been seeking, but may have almost given up on.
Interesting.
Interesting.
So what do you think you can do with this information? I mean, does it help you to understand another person a little bit better? Like if you look at the 2s and the 5 between y'all, does that give you any clues about dealing with each other?
I mean, if you were to kind of focus on those attributes, like I see it similar to like love languages. So like, okay, I know how they think, and if I am aware of how they need to communicate and how they need to feel seen and heard, and they're aware of that same thing, I think that can help with communication. It can also open up or raise some barriers, because you can now say, oh, well, you're too emotional. Well, you're not emotional enough. So you've got to be aware of that and not use it. That you shouldn't weaponize it, but you can use it as a tool. And again, you kind of have to take all of these with a pinch of salt. Like, just because I'm a number 5 doesn't mean I'm exactly the same as every other 5.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
There's...
You mentioned the love languages, and your dad and I took those 15 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
And we were in a whole group of people, and we were the only couple in the room who had the same love language. And they almost kicked us out because they were like, y'all are just weird. Yeah, y'all are just weird. But because you could watch it because our love language was the same, and ours was particularly touch, because you will find your dad and I, if we're walking down the street, we're holding hands. You know, if we're sitting at a table, one of us is touching the other one. Hey, but because we had the same love language, we didn't have the same conflict that other people who had different love languages, that they were having to learn how to deal with that person in the opposite way of how they dealt with. And so honestly, that was one of the great things that we learned, was that love language, because it did show us how to look at people and how to even talk to other people, particularly who were having different, difficulties in their marriage, because they didn't recognize that language. It was really eye-opening.
Well, and I think that love languages, at least, and I'm sure that the same could be said of most of these, I think that love languages do a really good job of saying, hey, you can give love and receive love in totally different methods.
Yes.
And so being aware that for me, at least, and maybe it's just because it's the 5 love languages rather than the 9 plus all the wings of something like an Enneagram, you can recognize and say, I need to give love to this person because that's how they're going to accept it. And they can give love back to me in a way that I accept it. It makes it more actionable, if you will.
Yes. Yes. I think so too.
But you guys ready to switch over to Myers-Briggs?
Yeah, because I think this one will be fairly interesting as well, because kind of similar to the Enneagram test, taking a look at mom and dad, they're pretty similar.
Oh, fascinating.
Like if we go and mom got, blow this up here, mom got an ESTPA, which means that she's extroverted, more observant than intuitive, more thinking than feeling, more prospecting than judging, and more turbulent than assertive. Whereas dad got ESFPA. So they're really only one letter off, meaning that mom is more thinking and dad is more feeling, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with that at all.
Really?
Oh,
I think
no.
it's it's the reverse of that. I think dad is more thinking and I am more feeling.
I don't think so.
No?
No. And I think dad would tell you the same thing.
I think that's a little bit of blind to it because it's yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to tell y'all 2 things about this. Number 1, Callie and I did this just recently with a group of women that we do a club with, and I kind of got in trouble. The person who was doing
administering
the test said, Mecca, you must have not been interested in doing it when you did yours because of the results that came out. And I went,
none of her percentages were very extreme. They were all pretty close to the middle.
I was really right in the middle. Thank you. I had forgotten that part. And I said, no, I didn't. I was paying attention. And she said, well, you must have had a whole bunch of neutrals. So thankfully, I was so happy because I'd taken a picture of all of the screens.
Note taker.
Yeah. And I'd taken it, and I went, I did not. I mean, out of, 30 questions, I had 7 neutrals. And she was like, really?
Well, that may just mean that on some things, like between extroverted and introverted, in some ways you're extroverted, in some ways you're introverted.
Yeah. Depending on who you're dealing with and depending on the specific situation that you're up against, your confidence level in that. But here's the part that I found most interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you said when we took it, that was probably about a month ago that we took it the other day. But when you took it just recently for this, you got different answers.
I did get different answers.
My answers are almost identical. Different test, different administration of that test, different questions, and mine is identical and yours is different.
Yeah.
Do you remember what was different for you?
Let me see if I can find it real quick and look it up. I don't remember. But the other thing that I was going to say is I've taken this both as an individual and then they have a manager's version. And that was really fascinating. In fact, because you're different as a manager because of how you have to deal with people.
That perception. It
was totally different. And it was just absolutely fascinating to look at the people that I worked with, and we all did manage people, and to look at that and recognize, holy cow, that is so different from their personality, their innate personality.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fascinating.
Kind of going back a little bit there to touch on you getting different answers. I've taken this test, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 times in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten probably 3 or 4 different answers. Well, I've probably gotten 3 different answers, but they're all like one of the categories shifts. So my letters change a little bit. But I mean, for the most part, they've all been in the same kind of area. Like it may flip-flop back and forth between introverted and extroverted, or it may flip-flop back and forth between like judging and prospecting.
Yeah.
But, Mom, it kind of makes sense if you've got a lot of answers where maybe you don't have many that you're that you're answering in the middle, but on one feeling question, you're answering strongly. On a different thinking, you're answering very strongly. So that's kind of giving you an average in the middle. Well, if you're really close to the middle, that means over time, it doesn't take very much of a shift for you to get a completely different category. Because if you're at 51, a 2% change now puts you to the other side.
That makes a lot of sense. So I was an extrovert, which I still disagree with. So that one was the
I
same.
don't.
Intuitive, feeling, and judging.
So you were an ENFJ,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're an ESTP. Interesting.
But Cole, that makes a lot of sense because I do tend to be right in the middle of those. And so that makes a lot of sense why mine would vary.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't take a whole lot.
Yeah, well, mine varies because I'm with you, Cole. I've taken it a few times over the last 20 or so years. My extrovert is always the same, but the sensing and intuition versus judging and perceiving, the second and fourth letter, mine tend to vary depending on what's going on in my life, depending on where I am in my career, depending on who I'm interacting with at that particular time period or time frame. And so mine is a toss-up, but right now here, I've taken it probably at least three times in the last year, and it has always been this ENFJ.
Interesting.
I tend to flip back and forth between INTP and ENTP.
Interesting.
Because I would consider myself generally an ambivert. Like I'm totally fine being by myself. I'm also totally fine being in a group of people. And sometimes I really desire one or the other. And so it kind of makes sense for me to go back and forth on those two particularly because I'm not extremely introverted or extroverted.
I don't think I've ever heard that term, an ambivert, like ambivalent.
Or ambidextrous.
Either way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So let's go through these letters and talk about them a little bit more. So the first one is introverted or extroverted. And, I think that sure, there are plenty of people who are like generally just an extrovert or generally just an introvert. But I think there are a lot of people who don't really fit necessarily into either one of those categories. They kind of go back and forth depending on which day it is. What do you think about that?
I would tell you Callie is an extrovert without question.
I think that you're right. I think that I am an extrovert, but I think that the way at least that it makes sense in my head is where you get your energy. I can sit at home and read a book, or I can go to the grocery store and chat up the cashier, and either one of those is fine for me, but I get more out of that conversation with the cashier at the grocery store than I do watching a TV show on Netflix.
And I'm going to get way more out of reading a book.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really, truly in my brain makes sense as to how you recharge yourself, what it is that is appealing to you to build that energy bank up. And so I think that you're right, Cole. I think that a lot of people could go either way. I think that a lot of people, it does kind of change depending on this, that, and the other. I do not at all. I am very solidly an extrovert, and I do not want to go to a concert. I do not enjoy that sardine can feeling. I do not want to be at a mosh pit. I do not like all of those people, but people is how I get my energy. So you would think like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. She should enjoy that. And I would much rather have the CD because then I can control it on my own. I can listen to the same song over and over 6 times and nobody's going to say a word.
Yeah.
But you may want somebody to sit in your passenger seat willing to listen to that song with you.
Yes. And that will build me up and energize me much more so than a sea of people that I don't know.
Because you're not interacting with those people.
Right.
You're not just getting that energy through osmosis. Going back to your number 2, you are getting that energy through the relationship and through that ability to make sure that they're okay and make sure that everything that they need is taken care of. That's where you're recharging, especially when you're receiving that acknowledgement and appreciation for it.
Yes, absolutely. I think that that's spot on. You really don't think you're an extrovert, Mom?
I think you're an unwilling extrovert.
I think that's fair. That? Yeah. Yeah.
What is?
I really do think you're extroverted.
I think that, again, I think it goes back to where you get your energy from. Could you sit at home and read a book on Saturday morning? Yes, absolutely.
But
Will
how
you get
often do you
more?
need to go have brunch with Wanda to
Exactly.
feel like you've gotten out of the house?
Yes, that was
Oh.
exactly going to be my example, because I think that that's just how you build up your personal energy reserves. And that's why I use the concert kind of analogy. It's not just any people, it's specific interactions. It's specific to you interactions that build up that
Okay.
energy bank. And I think that at the end of the day, you may be totally thrilled to sit at home and read a book, and you're happy to do that, but that isn't building your energy up. It's just enjoyable to you, but it isn't building your energy up.
Yeah, like,
Interesting.
and I'll use this as an example to kind of illustrate it for my own self. You know, I love my buddy Nathan. He is one of my best friends in the entire world, and he might be the most extroverted person I've ever met. Nathan could spark up a conversation and become best friends with a tree.
Yeah.
Yes, he could.
And I love him for that. But I have to expend energy to go spend time with Nate. That's not how I recharge. But I do that because I love him, because he's just a fantastic human being and a dear friend of mine. He recharges by building those connections with me.
Yeah. I've talked about when my neighbor Carolyn and I go walking, Carolyn can talk to anyone. Hello, good morning. Hi, how are you? And that always makes me go, that's a lot of effort and energy to expend. And I'm getting better at it, but I'm not just going to strike up a conversation without a reason to. I'm going to talk to the cashier. I'm not talking to the lady that I'm walking in the aisle next to.
Oh,
There's a reason
that's
that
a
I'm
distinction.
talking to her.
Yeah. That was what I was thinking. I very rarely have any interest in starting a conversation with a stranger. But when you say the cashier, I'm going to talk to the cashier. I'm always the one that people pay attention to at a restaurant, because I'm going to look at them and speak to them and answer them. And I just never thought about that as being extroverted.
Mm-hmm.
But that makes more sense.
Yeah. I think Nicole's unwilling extroversion is very, very accurate for you.
Yeah, just because you're an extrovert doesn't mean that you love everybody.
Yeah.
It just
and
means
I think that gets mistakenly kind of applied often.
Yeah, for sure.
Every person, every time, always. That is what an extrovert is. And that's not really true.
I just think of that extrovert as being that gregarious person.
Which I also don't think is true. I think that is a type of extroverted person, but I don't think that is in and of itself extroverted.
The only definition. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's switch over. Go ahead. Sorry.
Dad's an extrovert too.
But Dad's an extrovert in that we may be in the boondocks of Arkansas and Dad knows the guy.
Right.
And they all come up to him and they all remind him about how he knows them. And I think that builds up his, I don't want to say confidence. That's not the right word, but his energy. His well. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, Dad is closer to Nathan on that spectrum of extrovertedness, where he can talk to just about anybody.
Yeah.
And he will talk to just about anybody. If somebody is walking by and they say hello, he's going to say hello back. I'm going to be like, hey, and skedaddle on out of here.
Dodge a move. Yeah.
He's also the guy that you can walk into a room full of people and people all like him.
And people know him whether he knows them or not.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it doesn't take but just a few minutes and everybody is just going to, I don't think I've ever gone anywhere that people don't go, he's so nice.
Yeah. He's very easily liked.
They don't say that about me.
Well, yeah, it's not as easy for you to form those relationships.
But once they're formed, they are very, very secure.
Yeah, that's probably solid. Yeah. Okay, go to the next one.
Sensing versus intuition. I need a little bit of help on this one here, because to me, those are kind of the same thing, I guess. Like if I sense this is how something goes, then I feel like I have the intuition that that's how something goes. So maybe I need a little bit more definition there.
Yeah. So sensors, that's the S, right? Sensors focus on concrete factual details using their actual senses, whether that's sight, touch, hearing, taste, smell, those senses specifically. And they're making decisions based on facts and those senses alone. Whereas the I or the N, because they've already used I for introversion, the N for intuition, those people are focusing on patterns. They're focusing on possibilities, what could be, more abstract ideas, and basing it on their instincts.
Okay.
This is what I feel and believe is going to be the case based on what I know, based on this general concept versus a concrete, definitive answer.
Okay.
That's helpful.
There were several of these that the more that you dig in, the more you go, oh, like I'm really excited to get to judging versus perceiving here in a minute, because you're like, oh, you're more judgmental than me. And then that's not at all what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But-
Well,
So, and because I think this is really interesting, because this is about to be where mom and dad get off, where they differ.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, mom, we're talking about you being an extrovert, and you and dad are relatively similar here, but you're an entrepreneur. So, for you, that extrovertedness is probably more geared towards like accomplishment, maybe, whereas dad's is more geared towards like fellowship, I would say. Like,
Yeah.
he's extroverted. He relates to people because entertaining those people is something that brings him joy. You relate to other people because those people are really important to you.
interesting.
Yeah. So
Not to say
in
that
general,
people aren't important to dad or that you don't enjoy entertaining other people, but just kind of to bring some
drill
Yeah,
it
but-
down a little bit.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So strengths of people who are sensors would be things that are really practical, really realistic, detail oriented, a good memory for various facts and statistics and specifics. They're very specific and very practical. Whereas the strengths of somebody who is an N for intuition, they're going to be much more creative, much more imaginative, thinking and wandering with what could be, you know, they're seeing the bigger picture and enjoying the process of brainstorming and conceptually coming up with various could be's.
Okay.
So that's me. I am the intuition one who's more kind of out in the world wandering with various things versus this is how it is. These are the specifics. This is what is reality.
Which one are you?
I got intuition as well there.
And that doesn't surprise me. So again, I think that's kind of part of it though. Sensors are gathering information through their physical senses, whereas intuitives are gathering information through patterns and possibilities. So I think
Okay.
that's where Cole falls in. He's
Yeah.
being really logical about it. He's going through all of those patterns and what those patterns could turn into versus that's what I saw.
Okay, I'm with you there. So that makes more sense, particularly for dad, because just kind of wording it a little bit differently, taking a look at the website here, instead of intuitive versus sensing, they phrase it as intuitive versus observant, which definitely helps to clarify that a little bit, because dad is very much like a watcher. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to watch how all of this plays out so that I know what's going on. Where me, I'm like, okay, well, it could only be this or this or this or this or this. So I'm going to try and think of all of the different combinations of what it could be so that I know all of the different possibilities. That very much makes sense.
So
Yeah.
you and dad are opposite?
In
In
this
that one?
case, yeah, dad is more
Cole and
observing and I am more intuitive.
So it's really, really fascinating to me that Cole and I are both more intuitive and you and dad are both more sensory.
Here's where I'm going. I watched your brother grow up, obviously, and you could take him, like, if you took him to a new class, if the first day of school, if you took him to class, Cole was going to be super, super quiet. He would join in, but he didn't really speak or branch out, he had to see what that room was doing.
Observe first.
Yeah, he was going to, and as soon, you could almost watch it in his little head go. And as soon as he could go, this is,
I
this is
figured
how
the patterns out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Cole would join in. And then Cole would participate really with everybody else in the room. That first part, almost like he had a little cloud around him. And as he's watching everything, but if that's the observer part, that makes more sense.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like I go back and forth on these tests throughout my life. And so like I can totally see where you're coming from. And this one, I'm a little bit surprised how far I am from this specific result into the intuitive side. But I've been kind of going back to the definitions that Callie gave. Similarly, here it talks about observant individuals are highly practical, pragmatic, and down to earth, which I would say I tend to fall into those in a lot of things. They tend to have strong habits and focus on what is happening or has already happened. And again, I feel like I would fall into that, generally speaking, a lot of the time. Now, when we talk about intuitive individuals are very imaginative, open-minded, and curious. They prefer novelty over stability and focus on hidden meanings and future possibilities. Also things that I would say that I fall into.
I would agree.
Okay, and the last one?
2 more.
This one is really easy for me. Like it's thinking versus feeling. Like I am very much going to think through and feel my way through something. I mean, kind of like we've already talked about on a lot of these things. Like I'm going to say, okay, what are all of the possibilities? What is the route that I want to take? Like I'm going to go through and analyze and say, okay, what is the best decision at every step of the way? What do my goals need to be to like get from A to B? What are the stops that I need to make? What's going to be the most efficient course of travel to make those stops? And I'm going to say, okay, now start, ready, go.
Because thinkers prioritize logic and analysis and those objective principles all day long. Whereas a feeler is going to prioritize more of the values and the empathy and the subjective feelings that come along with whatever is going on.
See, that's another place where I think I'm off.
You think you're a feeler?
I think I'm more of a feeler than thinker.
You think you're which one more?
I would say a feeler, but the test we took about a month ago said I was about 34% more feeler than thinker. So that's not very much.
Yeah, so that's kind of another one of those ones where you're kind of in the middle. Because if we go back and we take a look at the one you got most recently, you're 60% thinking.
See, that's odd. Maybe
but
this
again,
is the one I wasn't paying attention to.
But again, I think that the strengths of a thinker really truly are good at problem solving, identifying flaws, and making impartial decisions. And I think that very much lines up with who you are.
Yeah.
Whereas the strength of a feeler is really good at building relationships, understanding others, and creating a really supportive environment. And that's not to say that you're bad at those things. It's just that you're better at the other.
Yeah. This week.
Well.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
And kind of going again into just a slightly different wording of that same definition, thinking individuals focus on objectivity, rationality, prioritizing logic over emotions. They tend to hide their feelings and see efficiency as more important than cooperation. I think Dad and I very much fit into that category.
Yeah.
Where not to say that you don't, but less so.
Yeah.
Whereas here, feeling individuals are sensitive and emotionally expressive. They are more empathetic and less competitive than thinking types and focus on social harmony and cooperation, which I think describes you more than it would Dad or myself.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting.
So again, this one is one that we're almost completely split. Dad and I are both feelers, and you and Cole are both thinkers. Fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump over to judging versus perceiving, because this is my favorite one.
Why is that?
Because I think that it's probably the one that's most misunderstood.
Okay.
And it is not at all what it immediately sounds like. It is not the same as what you would think it is on its face.
Okay.
So judging has to do more with the difference between the two is how you prefer to approach decision making and stuff like that. And a judger may prefer a more structured and scheduled environment. This is my routine. This is how things go. This is where I find things to work really well. They're very decisive. They're very organized. They're very responsible. And so I think that that's a kind of fun one. I'm a judger. It's not, well, I don't like her shoes, so she's an idiot. It's not that. And then the perceivers much prefer more flexibility, more adaptability, keeping their options open. They tend to be more spontaneous, more open-minded, and they're less, I don't want to say organized, but less structured. They don't need that structure the same way. In fact, they would not thrive under that same structure that a judger would. Here's my weird example for the two of you. Ryan is a perceiver. I am a judger. I want the structure. I want the routine. He wants the spontaneity.
I think I'm, and this is another one that I have a tendency to go back and forth on over the last few years, because like, don't get me wrong, if we're going to do something, I want to have a plan as to what we're going to do, but I also need that plan to be flexible. I don't need to stick to the rigidity of an agenda, of a
outline.
Right. Not the word that I'm thinking of, but like, I don't have to, like, I don't have this really direct need to follow a really strict schedule. Like, okay.
Rigid and regimented.
Right. Like, hey, this thing ran over. Like, we're still going to get to these other things. And some of them may have to wait. And if we don't get to them, that's fine. And if something else comes up that's cooler or better, yeah, let's go do that instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've always felt like if to have that rigidness would be the worst job possible. Like I never wanted to be an accountant or bookkeeper, because to me that my perception of that was doing the same thing every month. And I just thought that would be horrid to do.
You know, you say that, and I've thought about this here over the last couple of years, kind of moving from having a job that was wildly different every day into one that is more structured like that, being in finance. It depends on how you look at it and how you perceive it. Because here's the thing, you're not doing the same budget every month. Your expenditures in and your expenditures out are going to be different. So kind of putting those puzzle pieces together could be its own different adventure every month, but you have to be able to see those numbers as the adventure.
Yeah.
Well, and beyond that, I think that part of, at least in my brain, the sexy part of accounting and finance is there's always an answer. There is always a specific answer. That, I think, is the structure of it that you can rely upon for that consistency.
Yeah.
It's not subjective. It's not, well, maybe. It's by definition an exact answer. Always.
Yeah.
And they may be different exact answers from one day, 1 month to the next, but there's always a specific structured answer.
But the possibility of what that answer could be is infinite.
Wildly varied.
To me, that's wearing one hat versus wearing different hats. And I want to wear different hats.
We know. We've seen your shoe collection. So then the other part, and this part was new to me, and Cole, you'll have to explain it a little bit. So like the Enneagrams had the wings, these had little hyphenated letters at the end that I wasn't familiar with. Cole, would you walk us through what those are?
Yeah. So you've got your 4-letter, and then you have like a T or an A. So
I'm an A.
Yeah. I am an A. Dad is an A. Mom is a T this go around. Assertive individuals are self-assured, even-tempered, and resistant to stress. They refuse to worry too much and do not push themselves too hard when it comes to achieving goals. And I think that I for sure know that I fit into that category. Turbulent individuals are more self-conscious and sensitive to stress. They are likely to experience a wide range of emotions and to be success-driven, perfectionistic, and eager to improve. And Mom, I think that you're probably pretty close to the middle on those. And could have an opportunity to go back and forth depending on the day. But I could see that I could see you relating to turbulent more than like me or Dad.
Okay, mine says I'm an A.
Yeah.
I swear there was a screenshot that you posted that was a T.
Trying to make me be something I'm not.
Adding turbulence to your life.
I don't need no more turbulence to my life. I have the two of you. That's all I need.
Peacemaker.
It does have you. Who got a T then? Was it Dad who got a T? I
Nope,
swear
he's got
somebody
an A.
had a T.
We're all A's right now.
Which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen that added on letter.
I hadn't either.
It's been there for a while.
Okay.
I missed it or just ignored it because it's like, oh, boring. Gotta go.
Yeah.
Not important.
Nope.
But I think that one's fascinating.
Yeah.
For sure.
So do we want to get into our third quiz?
I mean, we've already touched
yeah.
on it. We might as well.
Yeah.
So
this one we threw in just for fun. Go ahead.
Is that what?
yeah.
I mean, and the opportunity to hang it over someone's head, Cole.
I mean, I'm not surprised at all by this result, to be perfectly honest with you. So
Okay.
we also took a like psychopathy, sociopathy, impulsiveness quiz, which was pretty similar to the others. You kind of just go and say, okay, I feel strongly or disagree strongly with each of these kind of different scenarios, just to kind of get some insight. So this psychopathy spectrum test was developed by a Dr. Michael R. Levinson to help diagnose psychopathic traits.
Tendencies.
Tendencies. So it's set to kind of measure your emotional detachment, impulsivity, and manipulativeness.
Dun, dun, dun.
So after going through, taking a look at the results, I ended up being the most psychopathic out of the four of us at 6.88% more psychopathic than the population average.
I was 6.17 above average, so I'm pretty close right there with you, Cole.
Yeah. And
Pinky and the brain.
Mom got 5.39%, the lowest of the three of us. So we're all slightly more psychopathic than average.
The average bear.
But what does that mean?
I think that's a
Closer to snapping.
To what?
yeah.
That much closer to snapping.
I mean, 6% though?
I think,
Right,
remember,
but
this
here's
is
the
a
thing.
spectrum.
Right. You're talking about like the average, the population average is deeply not psychopathic. So
Yeah.
just because we are 6% more psychopathic, we are 6% closer to the very beginning of the lowest level of
Right.
psychopathy. So we're still a long way from psychopathy. We're just 6% more psychopathic than the population average. Whereas Dad actually ended up being slightly less psychopathic than the population average, but just barely.
The one thing that I thought was really fascinating about this, all four of us, while we were still squarely in the normal, not psychosociopathic, not impulsive, all of us were closer to impulsive than anything else. I thought that was really fascinating.
It almost makes me question if that is more nature versus nurture.
Maybe.
You know,
I mean, but I also wonder if you took somebody, a Jeffrey Dahmer, and applied this test to them. I mean, because you could see, Ryan and I were sitting one day taking this test, and he was like, I wonder how close I can get to psychopathic. And you can for sure rig those answers, right? It's very simple. I don't care what happens to anybody else. I much prefer the outcome to me. That's where I stand. Like, of course, like if you put, yes, I strongly agree, that is accurate. Yeah, fine. But I think if somebody like some big serial killer were to honestly take this, I would be really curious as to where they would actually land on it. Because I think it would be really easy to rig and skew to whatever you wanted the result to be.
Yeah. And I think a psychopath would.
Yeah.
I don't think a sociopath would.
Interesting.
Because like my understanding of sociopathy is like basically not understanding that being wrong. That type of mentality being wrong. So that putting myself first is like, that's just how it is. It's not good or bad. It's just how it is. But like, I found myself going through those answers, and like on some of them, like it was like, I mean, I kind of disagree. I kind of agree. But like on almost all of them, like I was like, no, why would I ever do that? Like, why would I ever? Yeah. Like I'm there are times when I'm selfish, so I'm not going to go all the way against this. But I mean, like, who is answering this question? Like, and that's kind of how I started to pick up, like, that's how this test works, is there are people who see that as a good thing.
Yeah.
Who see that as
you're measuring the logic of how
wrong.
This is working.
Right.
Yeah, that disregard for social norms.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So like I said, we took this psychopath, sociopath test just for fun to add a little levity to everything. But I'm really curious. Cole. Yeah, to blame Cole, right? But I'm really curious, with any of these various personality tests, do you think that they can capture the complexity, the messiness of humans?
Very generally.
Yeah.
Yes. Like very, very generally. And I think that's how you should interpret these things. Like, this isn't a thing that defines you. This is a thing that may explain some of your, may explain or give you some insight into your own personal tendencies. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it also, you have to be really honest on those quizzes when you're taking them. And you have to say, okay, how would I actually react? Not how do I think I would react? How do I want myself to have reacted in a situation like that?
How should I react?
Yeah. How does my version of me reacting differ from the reality?
Right. I often wonder what the difference would be if I took the test and if you took the test for me. Mm-hmm. Would it be the same? Because obviously I have a little bit of a difference between what you guys see and what I think.
Well, and I think that is kind of part of it. And a couple of your various results have pointed to that interest or acceptance of input from other people, that lack of, I don't want to call it lack of selfishness, but that self-awareness. I think that several of yours, especially your Enneagram, is like you're holding all of that pretty close to the vest, not sharing it necessarily with everybody really freely.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a difference. There were, without any question, several of these various scenarios that I was like, hey, Ryan, what do you think about this for me? Where do you think that I fall?
Yeah.
And as I'm kind of sitting there, like, and some of them were really easy and really goofy, especially on that psychopath one. It was like, I think love is the stupidest thing in the world. And I was like, no, like who would answer that way?
But some people would.
And so then I started thinking about it like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I disagree.
So let me ask you, when y'all took these, because they were all on a scale like 1 to 5, severely disagree, mostly
agree, strongly agree, neutral.
Strongly, that's the word I'm looking for.
Disagree, strongly disagree.
How many were the extremes of those?
I have some extremes.
Did you have a lot of them that were extremes?
It depends on which quiz.
I think I had 2.
On the psychopathy one, mine were less extreme. Like I was like, okay. There were certainly some where it was like, yeah, no, definitely all the way. But I think I probably had more that were like only halfway.
Yeah. I have very few extremes.
Well, because everything is situational. Like,
yeah,
in one situation, that may be how I would handle it. And another, I may handle it a little bit differently.
Well, but remember, like, my Enneagram is, I'm very much a helper, and that's important to me. And so some of the questions on like the psychopathy one, it was like, I would be upset if my success came at somebody else's expense. Like, of course I would. Absolutely, I would. Yeah. Like, there's no reason that I need to push other people down so that I can build myself up. And so that is a good example for me of one of those extremes. Like, absolutely, I would be upset if it came at the cost of someone else.
And I think that's where, and I don't remember exactly how I answered, but if I had to go back and answer that question right now, I don't think I would put mine all the way to the extreme of, I would be really upset, because I think it kind of depends. Like, I understand logically that, hey, if I'm taking this position, someone else doesn't. Like, I don't intentionally want to sabotage someone else to make sure that I'm getting a leg up, But I also understand that in order for me to get this position, in order for me to get this advantage, someone else isn't. And I'm not really going to be like, I'm not going to go out of my way to target them, to prevent them, to intentionally harm them. But I also understand that that may be a result of some of the actions that I take.
Yeah.
And again, just like we talked about earlier, you have to take all of these results with at least a small grain of salt.
For sure.
I think there's some benefit to them. I do think it leads you to some introspection. I do think that it helps you to relate to other people when you aren't just taking on your own perception and you're looking to see how other people respond or what, how other people play out on that. So I think there's some benefit to this, but I definitely do not think you should live your life saying, I don't think we should tattoo this to our head so that
because
people
you
know.
change.
Yeah. Well, and like one of mine that really kind of stuck with me is like one of the little blurbits was Callie has a hard time understanding how people don't see the world like she does. And at first you're like, oh, that's ridiculous. And I was like, holy shit, that's totally true. Like, this is so simple, guys. You're missing it. How is it possible that you're missing it? And those tend to be like major moments of frustration for me. And I'm a communicator. I want to talk. I want to get it out. I want to be with the people of all of these different scenarios and situations. And you're not on board with this. And I don't get it. And so that's been one of those that I've had to kind of mull over in my head and say, okay, Callie, people can see this differently than you. And I really have to sit with that in order to accept it because it is very much who I am. And I didn't
But that's
realize
the benefit of seeing one of these is to give you that little niggle that goes, that makes kind of sense.
Maybe I'm seeing myself different than than the way the rest of the world is or the way that I really am. Maybe I have kind of this idea of myself that's a little bit different than reality.
Well, and I think beyond that, I think that it also gives you a leg up in some of your shortcomings.
For sure.
Hey, you're coming up short on this. You could spend some time focusing on bettering yourself in this capacity.
These
Whatever
are
that
scenarios
may be.
you may struggle with. Not that you necessarily are going to always struggle with every time, but you may, and being able to see those ahead of time and see those roadblocks coming lets you kind of expand a little bit to be more adaptable in those situations.
Yeah.
I can't decide if I'm dreading, we have lots of people that know us that are watching this podcast. Do you think we're going to get a bunch of comments back going, oh, Mecca, did you really not know that about yourself? I'm
so
kind of
funny.
scared.
One of mine, I think you'll be fine. One of mine where it lists your strengths and weaknesses, kind of like Cole was just talking about. One of mine is my strengths is I'm committed to improvement. I'm always looking to deepen my self-awareness and strengthen my character. Like those are things that are core parts of my being. I want to do better. I want to better understand. I want to learn. But then my weakness, one of them is unrealistic expectations. You can set exhausting standards for your own growth and become disappointed in yourself if shortfalls occur when those things happen. And so I think that that's, again, just these kinds of silly, goofy tests give you a different perspective to look at your life, look at your personality, look at your mannerisms and say, I didn't realize it was coming off that way. I can change this or I don't want to.
Yeah.
Might be one of those too.
Yeah.
It's really interesting when you go through and you look at some of the strengths and then you look at the weaknesses right after them and see how like your strengths are kind of what create your weakness. And so being aware of those. So like for me, having novel perspectives, quick to identify patterns, driven by curiosity, adaptability, independent and self-directed, and truth-focused are my strengths. And my weaknesses are almost come as a result. Difficulty completing tasks, resistant to structure, struggling with practicalities, under promoting yourself, frequent procrastination, and easily distracted. And you're like, oh, well, because you're theorizing so much, because you're so adaptable, because you have kind of these different ideas, you can jump from one to the other and not finish what you started. And I can definitely kind of identify that in myself for sure.
Yeah. Mom, especially when I get frustrated about something,
it more often than not, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, but more often than not, it's me. I'm frustrated with me. And one of my weaknesses that this list is your harsh inner criticism. You're regularly judging yourself too harshly. You're forgetting about the credit that you deserve and the progress that you've made because you're so frustrated with this specific shortcoming. And you'll come in and say, Callie, you're being too hard on yourself. Callie, give yourself some grace. And I don't do well with that.
Yeah.
I can give it to anybody else, but I suck at giving it to myself. So before we move on to our weird thought, I wanted to touch base with you guys. Cole and I were giggling about some of these. One of the tests talks about famous people with this same personality type as you. And I thought they were so fun and goofy and interesting. So I want to know, who are you like? Grain of salt.
I got some interesting answers here on mine.
Uh-huh.
Like Bill Gates, Kristen Stewart, that I'm not quite tracking there.
Yeah,
Albert
I don't
Einstein,
know her well enough.
Avicii, Stanley Crouch, who I'm not exactly sure who Stanley Crouch is. I'm not familiar with that one. Isaac Newton, Rene Descartes, Elliot Page, and Blaise Pascal. And then I thought it was really interesting when it started getting into like the fictional characters. So I got like Lord Varys from Game of Thrones, or Neo from The Matrix, Bruce Banner from Abed Nadir from Community, or Jack Ryan from the Jack Ryan series. And I was like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. I get that. Like, very much trying to think things through and see the big picture and distill it down into as much useful information as I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Mom, who were yours?
Ernest Hemingway, Jack
Which
Nicholson.
Cole and I saw, and we both said, oh yeah, that makes sense.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, both of us.
He was an alcoholic. Why can you say that?
Yeah, but that
There
doesn't
were
define his
that's
personality.
not a personality trait. Yeah.
Gosh. Jack Nicholson, Eddie Murphy,
Madonna.
Madonna.
Those are the boobs.
Yeah.
He's giving you the boobs.
I know. I'm ignoring him.
Well, YouTube
Bruce
it.
Willis, Michael J. Fox, Samuel L. Jackson. This one really cracked me up. Rocket from
Avengers.
Rocket and
Avengers. Yeah, from Avengers. And one of the Three Musketeers.
D'Artagnan.
I can't say his name. D'Artagnan.
Well, you also got Jamie Lannister from Game of Thrones.
And you got Phil from The Hangover. He's like the coolest guy in the movie.
Yeah.
You get to be Bradley Cooper. What are you hiding for?
He's the cool guy.
Where do y'all even see that? I don't see any Bradley Cooper in here.
He's Philip
It's his character. Yeah, Philip Winnick from The Hangover.
See, I didn't know who that was.
Yeah. So my people are kind of weird, kind of like Cole's. I have Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, John Cusack, Ben Affleck, which definitely threw me for a loop. And then I started thinking, I don't really know anything about him except he always looks miserable in photos with J-Lo. So I have no idea who he really is. Malala, Jennifer Lawrence. I got Sean Connery and Maya Angelou. I also got, Cole, how do you say the Game of Thrones girl?
Daenerys
Targaryen, Morpheus from The Matrix, Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice, and then Isabel Crawley from Downton Abbey, which I thought was a fun one.
I think they might have been drinking on this one.
Well, no, these are just people that also have the same like personality profile. That doesn't mean that they're all exactly the same, but that they share some common traits.
I'm still saying, I think there was some alcohol involved here.
I don't know. I think dads are spot on. I thought they were great. So dad was he got the entertainer. So his other entertainer personality types are Elton John, Marilyn Monroe, Jamie Oliver, Adele, Jamie Foxx, Steve Irwin.
That's the one that really got me for him. I was like, yeah.
Miley Cyrus, a very naked Adam Levine, Dandelion from the Witcher series, and Ygritte from Game of Thrones, Penny from The Big Bang Theory. I mean, I think a lot of these are peregrine toque for like Dad's like a fun guy who's pleasant to be around, and he likes to make sure that the people around him are entertained generally. So I
Jack
thought a lot of
Dawson from Titanic
yeah.
was the one that I was like, oh. So if
Oh,
he asked to come
crack
draw
me
you
up.
naked, I don't want to know.
Yeah, keep your love languages in there.
Okay, you got it.
Too
Well,
funny.
I don't know if that was, I'm thinking that was our weird thought, right?
Actually, I think our weird thought is even more interesting. So Callie kind of wrote a little question here. So based on the new knowledge that we have of ourselves, now that we are so in tune with who we are as individuals, we know perfectly every aspect about each of our personalities after each of these quizzes. If we were to run a heist together, what is everybody's role? Who is the mastermind? Who is the getaway driver? And who inevitably gets distracted by something?
Cole is the mastermind. Mom is the getaway driver, but you're going to have to work on your lead foot. We'll get you some heavy boots. And I am for sure. There's a snack or a child asking for something. I'm the one who's going to be distracted. Of this, I am sure. Donuts.
Seriously.
Let's take donuts from the bank. Who wants one? I'm for sure the one who's getting distracted. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, I could see that.
I didn't think about that. No. I mean, the first two we were right on with, but I was sitting there, but who gets distracted? And I don't see you that way. So,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
Guys, look over here.
And is it the same thing if we're doing a revolution?
I don't think it's the same to a point. I still think Cole is kind of the mastermind. And I think you guys kind of share that a little bit more. I think I'm probably a little bit more of the voice. Let me get everybody riled up. Let me cheer us all on.
I am the planner. Callie is the face, the front man.
The instigator.
Dad would be like the recruiter, and you would be the manager that kind of ties all three of us together and makes sure that we're all on the same page and working together.
Keeps us in line. Yeah.
The organizer, if you will. Like I would have, okay, these are the things that we need to do. Like these are the specific tasks that have to get done. You would be the person who makes sense of all of those and organizes them so that the dominoes fall in the right order.
I agree.
That is so funny. Okay. The last one, planning a vacation.
I really struggled with this one. Who of us is picking the location?
You're going to pick the location because you're going to find the funnest place to go.
Okay. I can handle that.
I'm probably going to be the one loading all the luggage.
And booking the tickets.
Booking the tickets and doing that kind of thing.
And Dad and I are going to do all the research on what to do when we get there. Like I'm going to do all the research up front, give it to Dad, and then he's going to lead those activities once we get there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny. I love putting it into those scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought they were silly.
Yeah, that's fun. Okay. Well, we did a lot of weird there. Who's got my good news story?
Okay. Our good news story this week is about Lil the goat.
Lil,
L-I-L.
Okay.
So a tiny goat triplet was shunned at birth because she was the smallest by far of the goat triplets. So usually goat babies, when they are born, are about a foot tall. Lil was about 5 inches and was kind of too weak to stand or do anything. So she couldn't really like nurse or anything like that. And she was kind of immediately shunned by her parents and her siblings. And the farmers were really concerned that she wasn't going to make it. So they kind of took matters into their own hands and went and got her out of the pen and started bottle feeding her. And pretty much as soon as they got her out of the pen and kind of took her inside, she immediately was adopted by 2 border collies. So Luna and Naya are the 2 farm shepherding dogs, and they pretty much just immediately adopted Lil and started playing with her and teaching her. And so as she kind of bottle fed and got up her strength and kind of started growing into be a goat that could stand on her own legs, she now thinks she's a dog. So she has been learning from Luna and Naya how to herd the goats. And
serious.
She apparently is extremely vocal when she is left alone because she doesn't want to be with the other goats. she thinks she's a dog, so she belongs with her people and with Luna and Naya. But Luna and Naya's adoptance of Lil kind of saved her as a little baby goat and the ability to kind of recover as the runt. So now, thanks to Luna and Naya, Lil, the collie goat, the border goat, is thriving and doing very, very well. And so we were happy to see that story this week.
That's very cute. That's so funny. I love it.
So fun, y'all. I love this.
Okay.
Great good news story, Buddha.
Love you guys.
Fun talking to y'all today.
Love y'all.
Love you.